Good morning and welcome to Rose Red Homestead. We're so glad you're here. We're going to be doing another great recipe today, and this goes very much to food security and self-reliance as well as emergency preparedness. I have been looking for a chili recipe for a really long time, a chili recipe with no beans, just featuring the meat and the wonderful flavorings that chili has. And the reason that I want one with no beans is so that we can be more versatile with that chili. And that would be that we can use it as on chili dogs, just plain. You wouldn't put, or at least we wouldn't put, chili with beans over a chili dog, but maybe some people eat it that way. Or eating it just plain without the beans, or emptying a jar into one of our home canned jars of beans and then making chili and beans with it, which gives a lot of versatility. Jim and I were talking this morning about whether we wanted to can it in quarts or in pints. And we've decided that pints would be more, would allow us more variability. And if the time came that we needed more than a pint's worth of just the plain chili, we could open 2 pints, so that makes it very easy. So before I go any further, I keep forgetting to remind people that we have a list of our Rose Red Homestead classes here. So here's our whole list. We now have 8. The last one, Efficient Multiple Meal Prep, was very well received, and we thank you for all of your wonderful comments on that one. And we're looking forward to, coming in October, Make Ahead Holiday Foods. So our classes, all of these classes are just about an hour long. I treat them kind of like university classes, and there's always a handout, a printout for you to have along with you to guide you through watching and listening that you can make your own notes on as well. So some of you have asked how you access our classes. We have a class playlist, RRH class. So if you go to our YouTube channel and click on playlists, you can scroll until you find the playlist for the RRH classes, and they're all right there. So let's get back to our chili. So I have some oil heating in this pan. I have 4 pounds of chuck roast that we have cut in 1/2-inch cubes, and I'll tell you that was a little bit tedious. Thanks to Jim for helping me do that this morning. And I really appreciated his helping me cut things in little tiny chunks. So I think that will really make the chili a nice, very nice texture. We're going to be adding a couple of cans of tomato. These are petite diced tomatoes, some onions, and some spices. Now, what about the recipe? Well, this recipe comes from Bernardin. Bernardin is belongs to the Ball family of canning jars, canning recipes, tested recipes. So we think of Ball Blue Books. Bernardin also publishes recipe books that they have tested as well. These are all tested recipes, and Bernardin is out of Canada. I will be putting the link to this particular recipe where you can download it and print it out yourself at the end of the description on this video. So just scroll down to the description, the link will be right there. So what we are going to be doing first is just browning the meat. We don't want to cook it through at all. We just want to brown it. Lightly brown, it says. The meat's browned. I'm going to be putting it in this pot because this frying pan isn't big enough to hold the whole batch of chili. So I will be back when we have the meat all browned and show you what the next step is. So I've just put all of the meat in the pot. And I put 3 cups of onions and 2 cloves of garlic back in the frying pan. And we just need to saute these until they are soft but not necessarily done. Just a quick saute. This is my carbon steel frying pan. I really like it. It's a little bit less heavy than a regular cast iron skillet and does about the same thing, but I still love my cast iron skillets as well. Next, I'm going to add the spices. I'm going to read to you what they are. 5 tablespoons chili powder, 2 teaspoons cumin seed, 2 teaspoons salt, 1 teaspoon oregano, half a teaspoon of pepper, half a teaspoon of coriander, half a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. All right, in go the spices. All right, now this goes in with the meat. Just get a few of these little onions. We don't want to miss out on them. And because there's some really good stuff in the bottom of this frying pan, I am going to put one of the cans of tomatoes in the frying pan to capture what is left on the bottom there. Let that simmer for just a minute. And the other can is going to go directly into the pot. And that did it. That cleared all that good stuff off at the bottom. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So now I'm going to put this in. And we are going to put our pot up on the heat. Stir everything together. And maybe Jim can come over and get a shot inside the pot here. So here's what it looks like. And now this has to simmer for 45 minutes. Wow, this is a very meaty recipe. So we will be back in about 45 minutes when this is ready to jar up. Well, we have had this on the simmer for 45 minutes, and it is just wonderful. I did a little test. This is the time where you do a little taste test to see if you need to adjust the spices. And I did put a couple of more shakes of the red pepper in there because it wasn't quite chili enough for us. So I think we're going to have 6 pints close. And that's exactly what the recipe says we'll have. So let's see. And we leave 1 inch of head space. This is a very meaty mix, which is very nice. So we had just about 2 or 3 bites left is all, and 7 pints. So this is fantastic. So Jim and I've tasted it and it's fantastic. So Jim will enjoy a few bites in a little while. All right, so now we're just going to double check for little air pockets. And now I am wiping the rims with a paper towel dampened with vinegar to cut any oil that might have gotten on the rims. Lids. Rings, finger tight. We will be using my Presto canner, my stovetop. It's outside in our canning corner out there. And so we will meet you out there and get these started. I'm loading the canner with our 7 pints. We had a couple of inches of water in the bottom. And Jim can come over and give you a quick look. So we're all closed up. Here is the weight that will go on right after we have vented for 10 minutes. And I've shown you that many, many times. We'll wait until there's a good stream of steam shooting from this vent, and we'll time it for 10 minutes so that we can get all of the air out of the canner and replace that with steam. Now, this Bernardin recipe differs from the regular USDA processing time for pints. We are to process these pints for this particular recipe for 85 minutes. So that's what we're going to do. It's a little bit more viscous than usual, and I'm sure that that extra 10 minutes is because in their testing they needed an additional 10 minutes to keep it up in the kill zone for botulism long enough to be safe. So we will gladly add that extra 10 minutes. So once it has vented, then we will put the weight on and wait for it to get up to our pressure, which is 13 psi. And make sure that you know what your pressure is for wherever you live. And then once it gets up to pressure, that is when we will start timing for 85 minutes. Then we will let it cool completely and come down to zero pressure before we even think about opening the canner. And then when we are ready to remove the jars from the canner, we will bring you back. The canner has completely finished. The pressure is down to zero. We've got a lot of wind out here, and I'm going to tell you the story of that, what Jim had to do to keep the fire going once we get inside. So let's get the jars out of the canner and get them inside, and then we'll finish up. So it's all done. Double checking. And yes, there's no more pressure. So I'm just going to take the lid off. Looks wonderful. There might have been a little bit of siphoning, but not very much at all. The water is still pretty clear. Okay, let's go inside. Well, here they are, all 7. 4 of them have popped in just the last few seconds since I walked them in from the canner. So Jim built that nice little canning station for me out there with a big windbreak all the way on 3 sides, facing the direction that the wind usually comes. Today's wind came in from the front and blew the fire out. Jim, how many times?
At least 3, possibly 4 times.
Yeah, 3 or 4 times. And so Jim, who's vigilant on that, caught it every single time so it did not drop below 13 psi, and then reignited the fire and got it back up again to between 13 and 15. And the wind was so bad that for about the last 45 minutes, he sat on an overturned bucket right in front of the canner so that he would be ready to turn the fire back on if it should pop off. So thank you, Jim, for saving our batch of canning. I am thrilled to have these pints of chili without beans and look forward to the time when we'll be able to use them in many different ways. This is a fairly simple recipe to do. The most tedious part was cutting the meat into the little tiny cubes, half-inch square cubes, which took both Jim and me probably about, what would you say, Jim, about 30 minutes to do?
Something like that.
Yeah, we each had a slab of meat that we were doing. So not bad at all for 4 pounds of meat into 7 jars of this delicious chili. So thank you so very much for staying with us, and hope that you can download and try this recipe too, because it is really, really good. So we will see you very soon for more videos.